All right, here we go. Back in bold. Another great, awesome, amazing, beautiful day in Brazil. And today I'm with a dude in the freezing cold land of England. We're going to talk about little languages. And especially, you're going to convince me today, which I need, is to stop being lazy and learn language. Because I've been traveling the world for a long time, lived in many different places, and I still can only speak English, which is ridiculous. I know it's like a magic key. Once you learn it, it unlocks an amazing experience when you're traveling. I'm waiting for these Facebook Ray-Ban glasses. Now I can put those glasses on and they can speak a different language, translate it for my eyes. What do you think about that, Mr. Pat? Do I need to learn a language anymore or what?
Of course, you have free will, my friend. You can learn a language if you want, if you feel called to learn a language. I would ask you, what's stopping you, to be honest? Like you say, laziness, like I can't understand people, and this isn't a dig, of course, but me personally, when I've been traveling, like that's what has inspired me to like learn a language, to really connect with people on a deeper level. Also because, especially in Europe, English people have a bit of a reputation, In Spain, a lot of us go to Spain on holidays, like down to the south coast, and we just go there to use them for their like cheap beer, sunshine, and ogle at the gorgeous women that they've got there as well. We don't like try and connect with them, and yeah, I think it's a real shame because when I went to Spain and actually tried to learn Spanish, the reaction I got of people was just, it's like another world. You enter a different dimension when you speak like their own language. You really connect with people. They love it. You don't get ripped off as well. You don't get the typical like gringo experience when you're like speaking to them in their language. There are so many benefits to talk about. Like I would ask you, what's been stopping you, do you know?
I saw a funny thing about why Great Britain, conquered most of the world because the dudes, they wanted to get away from the bad weather, the shitty food, and the ugly woman. So they sailed all these different seas to find better pastures. But it just reminded me of what you said, like in Spain, dude. I remember in Tenerife, holy crap, I saw every British person, every stereotype and whatnot in the South. I was there in the summer the summer before, and it is funny how you guys you're like Americans. You know what I mean? You go to a place and I want my English breakfast. I want everything how it is back home. Speak my language, and I definitely admire it somewhat, but also like you said, you're not going to get the full experience whatsoever. And what has stopped me, I don't know. I think I'm naturally kind of a person that doesn't need much social interaction. Like I like being in my own little world. And also like for the dating, bro, like I've had it hasn't affected it at all. Obviously you have the Google Translate. I think there's a lot about vibing, which is important, especially when you're doing this nomadic stuff. It's hard to develop deeper, lasting relationships, which is what you need for language to express yourself down the road. But if you're hanging out for a couple times, a week, 3 weeks, it's not the end of the world. I've also learned that a lot of people speak English or want to speak English, right? So they're like, no, don't speak Italian. Like, I want to try to speak English and learn. But I will tell you this, and the time that it made me really question if I should invest some time in learning is when I had a beautiful relationship in Italy. And she spoke basically fluent English, but she's like, Nick, this is like probably 6 months down the road. Like, I want to express things to you, but I cannot do it in English. Like, there's these things I want to say, and I'm like, that hurt me. I was like, damn, I really want to fully understand you and feel you, because the vibe does last a while, and the body language and the feelings, but sometimes you need to like hear everything, right? So to answer your question, I'm going on a little rant, is I think I look at learning a new language as my ROI on making money or doing cool shit. Making content is better than sitting on Duolingo and being like, excuse me, boy tardy, and being a stumbling mess, right? And I really do think that we're going to have the AI or the glasses or the freaking Elon Musk brain chip pretty soon where I speak English, you speak Portuguese, and it's totally easy to understand with the technology.
Okay, I get your points. I get your points. Um, oh, you
I'm
seem
still
to.
here. I just put you on
You're
full
still
map.
there?
I'm still
Okay,
here.
jump on.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. Um, regards to the AI stuff, I mean, I'm pretty much the opposite way, to be honest with you. I'm staying well away from it. I don't like it. I get the benefits of it, especially when you're traveling and stuff. But what I like about learning languages is that connection. You know, you're connecting with someone on a deeper level, and like your Italian partner, ex-partner, said to you, like you just can't say certain things in English. It's limited. You're very, very limited. Although English is a great language and it's very rich, there are just so many examples where my
English is
girlfriend.
straightforward. English is like this. Like Italian is like a dance. You're circling around.
Yeah.
Like English, I love because like it's straight to the point. But it does feel, unless you're like a poet or something, you can't express so many things compared to like Latin languages or Italian, Spanish. Like these different languages seems are more rich.
Yeah. I mean, English is rich, like in and of itself. I think it's a rich and beautiful language, but you're never going to be able to get the quality of communication and relationship with the person if you don't at least understand their language, I think. And a lot of the culture seeps through the language. So, like Italians, we'll use that as an example, right? Because I speak Italian. You've had a bit of experience in Italy, right? You know how they care so much about the aesthetics. Yeah, they're beautiful people. They're good-looking people, but they dress well. They look after themselves, right? You can know that from the outside and go, okay. You don't know why, and it's influenced by the way that they speak. Okay, everything you've probably heard, like "che bello." Have you heard that? Bello. You're on
Bello,
mute.
beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. Bello. Yeah,
Ciao
but then
bella, la dolce vita, mi piaci. I know a little. I know a little.
yes. So you know a bit, man. I just think you're a bit shy. You're holding back a little bit. With that, for example, so in Italian you've got "che bello." Everything is either bello or brutto. Brutto is ugly, right? And this is just how they speak normally. That's "oh, che bello." Whereas in English we would say, "Oh, that's great," "Che bello," how beautiful. It's You're saying the same thing, but you're not really like saying how beautiful. You just get their culture a lot more, And there's expressions and things that can't be translated as well. Like, so I understand what that girl was saying to you. Like, you can speak, but unless you can speak from unless you can understand their native language, they can never truly speak from the heart, if that makes sense. You're always
And that's
speaking through
big.
the form of AI,
That's a
just
big
using
deal
English.
though in Italy. The speaking from the heart, the romance, the like you said, the vibe and their expressionism and their style, everything does kind of correlate too. And yeah, that hit me. That was a couple summers ago, and I was like, fuck, like because I spent 2 years in Italy. My Italian is very basic and minimal, which is unfortunate, but I don't know, bro, because like I'm moving around, right? So it's like, okay, I spent all this time in Italian, and now I've been in Brazil the last 8 months. And okay, what does that do? But I can go back, and I just look at it as like, okay, well, hey, I gotta work out. I gotta pay the bills. I gotta create bold perceptions. Like I start viewing things as what is my return, on investment, and then like your tweet did. This is how we came across each other. You had some tweet, and you're saying that we were taught wrong or something by the school. Like we all think we're bad at learning languages, at least in the West, like the USA. I took 8 years of Spanish, and I don't know fucking any Spanish, and I lived in Mexico too. And your thing was like there was bad teaching method, right? And I tweeted on that. He's like, you said, oh, free yourself, Neo. It's okay. You can do it. What do you mean by that? The school system is shitty or what?
Oh man, the school system. I think I went in a bit harder than what you're alluding to in the tweet. I said that they traumatized us, which they have done. School, with every subject, but focusing on languages, traumatizes us into thinking that mistakes are bad. Yeah, we're graded on how fewer mistakes we make. We make few mistakes, we get high grades. Mum and dad happy, teachers happy. Have you actually learned anything? No, they just teach you how to chuck stuff in your short-term memory spit it out onto a page. This was my experience at school. And if you do that with a language, you're never going to learn. You're only going to spend years, quote unquote, learning that language, but you're not actually learning anything. So at the end of it, like your experience with Spanish, what was that, 8 years you spent in school? Man, you should be very fluent in 8 years. You should be speaking a few languages. Like if you're doing it the right way, you can do so much in that time. They not only did they waste your time at school teaching you with that method, but by the sounds of it, because you've had opportunities to learn, but something's been blocking you, they've traumatized you into making you believe that you're not a language person, which is complete nonsense, because humans are made for languages. We are language learning machines. You know, if anyone is listening to me now and they can understand what I'm saying, you're a language person. I'm sorry, like that's just an absolute, it's a coping mechanism people have because of that trauma from school. They tell themselves, oh, and maybe they try, you know, like you said before, like a bit of Duolingo. So many people fall into this trap. They think, I'm going to learn Spanish. Okay, I was rubbish at school. They've got these negative like beliefs to start off with. I was rubbish at school. I'm not really a language person. Don't really believe I can do it, but I kind of want to because it would be cool. Everyone knows that deep down. It would be amazing for them to learn. But they go to Duolingo. Duolingo gives them a few hits of dopamine. Oh, I got this word. Hola, ¿cómo estás? El gato está en la mesa. You know, the cat is on the table. Great. When am I going to learn? When am I going to use these kind of things in real life? They think that is their language learning. So they've given it another try. They fail again, clearly, because you're not going to learn a language from using Duolingo exclusively. It's just not going to happen. It's the wrong method. So then they come out of it and they say, well, there's my evidence. I'm not a language person. I was rubbish at school. I was rubbish with Duolingo. So now I'm just going to give up and feel awkward when I'm in social situations in different countries, when people are around me all speaking that language, having a good time. I'm just going to stand there and pray that they speak English. Sad. It's very sad. And that's why I go in hard at the schools and try to offer the solutions as well, do you know? Because I don't just want to slate the schooling method and then say, well, you're stuffed, you know? You're not, because I was rubbish at school as well. I speak 6 languages now. When I was 18, I spoke just English. I started learning French properly when I was 18, 19. But I had been, again, quote unquote, learning it in the schooling system for, probably about 7, 8 years, similar to yourself with Spanish. Didn't learn anything. But I got to a point where I was pissed off. I was angry. I was like, this is wrong, do you know? I know there are immigrants who come to my country and learn the language. I know there are people who learn other languages. I don't believe they're just talented. So I went on YouTube, which back in the day had a load of great like resources and videos. And it still has, to be fair, with language learning. And I looked up people who spoke languages, and I typed in, how do you learn a language? How do you really learn a language? And I came across these guys and gals called polyglots, and my mind was blown. And I still had that little voice inside my head going, yeah, but they're talented, you know. Yeah, they're special people. You're not good at languages. You're not good at languages. But for some reason, actually, I know the reason. It was a girl living down my road who was French. And I was like, well, I want to try and chat to her. So speaks to the power of, I won't say anything politically incorrect, but, you know, the power of lust or whatever.
You don't need a clean mouth on this podcast. You can say whatever.
Okay. I'm trying to protect my brand. That's all. The power of the pussy, we can say. Anyway, I had a reason to learn then. And I spoke to her, and she was learning English at the same time. She was living in England, obviously. And from there, I just kind of trusted what these polyglots were saying about languages, that you could do it. And lo and behold, kind of fast forward 10 years.
Hold on. Before we get into the polyglot way, because this sounds like the solution for me. I also don't think it's just the school system. Obviously, we've been blessed, the English and the Americans, for the universal language of the skies of business is English, right? I also think in USA, we live in a bubble for the good and the bad. We don't really give a fuck about the rest of the world. So in school, we're probably like, why the hell do I need to learn Spanish? I just go to Cancun for 2 weeks and party my ass off with Americans. Like, so I think that's also a limiting a factor to developing the skills. Because obviously in Europe, everyone is duolingo, or trilingual. I mean, everyone speaks different languages in Europe, which is nice. But obviously, it's closely together in the European Union and so forth. But yeah, I agree with you. Then you get the double hammer of Duolingo, telling you the cat is on the table, and you're like, okay, fuck this. I really give up. So what is the solution then? The polyglot way, the spiritual polyglot? Is that how I'm going to learn language in record speed? Tell me.
Right. Okay. Well, the spiritual polyglot is just my podcast that I've got, and I take a deeper dive into like languages, the etymology of words, and like a spiritual angle to language learning in general. Just because a lot of the guys and gals in the language learning community are not really into spiritual stuff, but for me, it was a big spiritual like awakening, learning French and thinking in French. I was kind of like, oh my god, like, wow, I've created this character. And that's one of the secrets, like, of learning a language. You've got to create a character. Don't be you. Like, don't be Nick speaking Spanish. You've got to create a Spanish Nick and start from there and start from scratch. You've got to really get into it and get invested and exaggerate. Go over the top, like with your accent. Don't just be there like in your shell and saying like, I don't know, like, buenos dias, go buenos dias, really like exaggerate it. So creating a character, there's a fair bit to it. There's a lot I obviously share with my my guys, but that's number one. If you're serious about learning a language, realize you, Nick, I'll speak to you, Nick, the American guy, you're not going to speak Spanish. You've got to create a character. Yeah. You've got to get into an acting role. Yeah, that's the attitude you got to have with it.
Hold on. This is interesting because I've heard a lot of people who speak multiple languages. They feel like they're different speaking the other language. I think that would get a little schizophrenic, no?
Yeah, maybe, but it's a cool bit of schizophrenia, and it's useful.
But about that, why is that? Like you talk about spiritual and language, and you were this whole different person in French, and you had an awakening and enlightenment. Well, what the hell is that? I mean, is it because it rewires your brain? I know that the different languages, but how the hell can I be a totally different person just because a different language? That's pretty scary. I know I'm all about manifestation, affirmations, hippie shit like this. So I'm big into like, what you think becomes your words, and your words become your reality, et cetera, et cetera. But is that kind of play into the factor of why these people are different personalities in different languages?
Yeah, it could do. I kind of differentiate a personality between a character. I don't know how deep you want to dive on this, but with French, let's say, my experience was, okay, well, if I'm just now thinking in French and dreaming in French and speaking in French, these thoughts are not who I am. And that was the biggest kind of realization. And this is like the right start, like right at the beginning of a spiritual realization, is the moment in which you realize that you're not your thoughts, that you're something deeper. You may not know what that is. I would not call that state enlightenment at all, but it is an enlightenment of sorts, because you're like oh shit, well, I'm not my thoughts then, I'm something else. If I've created a French character, then maybe it kind of just plants the seed of, well, maybe this English character is just that as well. So for me, then it kind of led down a progressively spiritual kind of path, let's say. But with regards to like language learning and the benefits of it.
Hold on.
Go on. If you want to dive in, we can
interest me. Yeah, not freaking 40 minutes of it, but keep going on that idea, because besides the outward appearance, I'm very hippie with this shit. I've gotten more back into Christianity. I was in Notre Dame the day before the fire, and that kind of fucked up my brain. So I think I'm more, Jesus, but I still do a lot of the hippie stuff that I did before. So tell me a little more about your revelation through the learning the French, and you who you are aren't your thoughts and your words and etc.
Okay. Well, this actually might link back into how I help people learn languages, to be fair. So that was my first like spiritual realization, or at least that planted the seed, right? And kind of from then on, I learned more languages, and it kind of solidified that fact, right? I was like, well, I definitely know I'm not my thoughts now because I've made a Spanish character, an Italian character, a Portuguese character, etc. So it solidified it. The real spiritual stuff for me started when I was getting into counseling, like studying to be a therapist, you know. I did 4 years training for that. And with that, you've got to do at least 40 hours personal development. You know, you've got to do at least 40 hours counseling yourself, like therapy yourself, which is obviously makes a lot of sense, right? If you've got to sit and hold space and listen to someone who's speaking about their traumas, you're going to be a terrible therapist. They say something and that triggers, you know, an issue you've got with your parents or whatever. So through that, I kind of had the deepening of realization of, oh, I'm not my thoughts. Because what I think and what I believe now are completely different from 5 years ago, let's say. I'm a different person. Well, how is that possible? I am a different person. It just doesn't make sense because I have always been here. I have always been observing this. Yeah. So I realized then, oh, okay, well, what I am is this deeper I, this observer, and the person is that which is changeable. So that's kind of how they got into deeper kind of spiritual stuff. And from then I got into like meditation and things like that.
Well, I mean, not only language, but the traveling, I mean, totally switches all your perceptions and your ideas and opens up your brain, and you feel totally different than you were before, right? The whole observer thing is huge in meditation, right? Like you observe the thought, you let it go, focus on your breathing. It's just interesting to me. I've never heard anyone say they've come to that realization through learning a new language, but it makes total sense. Like you said, you have these different type of characters, and it's different people necessarily, different thoughts, words, and that's very interesting. So that's where the spiritual polyglot means multiple languages, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I think it's someone who speaks more than 3 officially. So
yeah, but yeah, so I think I've came those similar realizations through the traveling, through the meditation, through the hippie shit, and maybe that will motivate me to learn a new language to even get a higher dose of it. Okay, so now we're moving. Hey, let's get into some nitty gritty. But I like this bigger picture talking, but I like practicality as well. So you said creative characters number 1 for learning a new language. Bring me down the path. What else do I got to do?
So what I teach people is how I have learned languages, how I've kind of naturally been a good language learner. I kind of thought, well, what's different about me and other people? Do you know? Because there are people who learn languages, but they don't learn as many or as fast or whatever. And obviously, putting yourself in an environment in which you can practice it is great. And I've done that with Spanish. I lived in Spain for 4 years. But aside from that, it's my ability to listen. I've always been a naturally gifted listener, and I've kind of got into therapy as well. Like I'm a therapist, so I have to listen in that role. And as a teacher as well, you've got to do a lot of listening, but also as a language learner. Yeah, the reason I've been able to learn languages is because I actually listen to people and I stay present with them as they're speaking. And I focus on what they're saying, not what I want to say. A lot of people, when they're having conversations, will be there in their heads thinking about the next thing that they want to say rather than staying present, rather than just being there with that person. And if you want to learn a language, you've got to be very, very present. If you want to learn it like quickly, efficiently, there are lots of other benefits as well that come with it. When you truly listen to a person, they feel listened to and you connect to them on a deeper level. They know you're not just some gringo that's trying to use them to learn Spanish or Portuguese or whatever. They're like, oh, he actually cares about what I'm saying. Okay. So I teach my guys listening skills, like advanced listening skills. And once you master those, it's difficult to not learn a language. I'll say it to you like that. It's difficult to not learn, and everyone becomes your teacher. Any interaction you have with a person then becomes like a free lesson. And I've kind of reverse engineered myself and asked like myself, what is different about me? What do I do? How do I do this? Because things you do well, right? You kind of take them for granted. You're like, yeah, everyone knows that. And I'm explaining this to my students as I started my Laid Back Languages, my business. And they were like, oh, that's a revelationary tool. And I'm like, is it? I thought everyone did this, but they don't. Most people, like I said, they don't know how to listen. They don't listen properly. And a lot of that is to do with the traumas from school as well. They're in their heads. They're worried. They're in their defenses, their defense mechanism, their ego, thinking, oh my God, I don't want to say this wrong. I don't want to say that wrong. Meanwhile, the other person is there speaking. They're giving them all this gold, and that person's there like they can't even see it. Does this make sense? Because they're blocked off, because they're in their own head. They're not there. They're not present. If they would just be open, present with the person that's speaking to them, and use these active listening skills, which are like paraphrasing is the first one I teach people. I say you've got to learn how to paraphrase what the other person is saying. So I give you a real simple example. For most people, they might know a bit of Spanish, right? Typically, in a conversation when we're learning Spanish, you'll say, okay, hola, hi. So you'll say to someone, hola. And then you'll ask them, ¿cómo estás? And then they'll say, oh, hoy estoy muy cansado. ¿Y tú cómo estás? So they said, today I'm very tired. And how are you? Normally then, the person would go back with, yo estoy, and they talk about themselves. Yeah, how they are. And a lot of the times they'll be pre-planning these thoughts as well. So I want to say I'm this. So they won't even be listening to that person. They'll have cut themselves off straight away when the other person is saying, estoy cansado, I'm tired. Well, I get my guy, estás? How are you? And you say, oh, pa, hoy estoy muy cansado. ¿Y tú cómo estás? I'll say to you, oh, hoy estás cansado. Yeah, I've paraphrased back to you. I've reflected back to you what you just said. That builds rapport straight away. That you're going to be like, oh man, this guy, what a guy. He listens. Most people don't do this, not even in my native language. This giri, this gringo, he cares, man. And they'll say, sí, estoy cansado. Estoy muy cansado porque, and they'll give you more gold. And I'm there collecting it, man. I'm like collecting. Thank you. And of course, they're going to be asking you questions as well, and you can speak back. But if you're good at listening, man, let's say I don't know how to say cansado, or cansado, tired is a new word for me. If they say estoy cansado, I repeat back, estás cansado. Bam. So I'm learning the language actively and also making them feel listened to. Does this make sense? This is not too complicated, no?
No, it's normal too with dating, with business. The whole famous thing is the most interesting person is the one who asks you all the questions, right? So many times on dates, the girl has no fucking idea who I am, and I have their whole life story, and they're like, oh my God, that was such an amazing time. Like, you're so interesting. I'm like, you don't know a damn thing about me. But it's the natural selfishness about maybe the person and, feeling like you're listened to, right? Because like you said, a lot of people aren't listening. That's why I really think doing podcasting, shit, I've almost done 300 episodes now. You learn the listening skill big time because you have to write down these ideas and let the people go on the little rants, not try to interrupt. And I 100% agree with you. So yeah, that makes sense how that could really help out with learning a language, but just overall in life, the listening skills like you're talking about. And that's a persuasion one too, where you repeat the end of what they say, or you paraphrase kind of their points. There's a famous like persuasion tip relating to that. I forgot where I read that, but no, it is interesting. Definitely communication skills and going from there. So keep going.
Yeah, it sure is interesting. And I'm glad you brought that up because it affects all other areas in your life as well. I tell my guys, like, listen, if you want to learn a language with me, I will guarantee you will learn the language. Okay, you're gonna like unwrap a lot of old stuff that you've learned, like traumas and things like that, and you're gonna heal that as well. And the impact that's gonna have on your life in general is just massive. So there, listening for sure is one thing. Emotions as well, because I've been blessed to have the counselling training I've had, and I'm a bit of a natural at it. I've got quite a high EQ.
You don't seem like a depressive British person at all. I give you that. I haven't met a British person that has the glow that you do, so something's working.
Bless you, Matt. Well, I've traveled a lot as well, and a lot of people tell me that. They're like, you're not like a normal British person. I'm like, nah, you can't be a normal British person if you're living in Spain, and interacting with people. But yeah, EQ. I hypothesize, I don't know this for sure, that having a high EQ, a high emotional intelligence, is a lot more important when it comes to language learning than having a high IQ. My IQ is not high, I'd say I'm maybe a little bit above average, but I'm not super smart in that way. The advantage I've always had, though, is like an awareness of my emotions and what's going on inside. Many people, because we're not trained to have a high EQ, it goes back to school, right? We just they focus on the IQ, getting people as like good at remembering shit as possible and repeating whatnot, but we don't work on ourselves on a deeper level, on a soul level, you could say. So yeah, recognizing like your emotions and starting to be okay with them. When you learn a language, man, you have to make so many mistakes. We're trained into thinking we have to be perfect with everything we do, but when you learn a language, the mistakes are the steps, if that makes sense. You have to fail your way to fluency. You have to mess up so many times. You better believe you're going to forget a lot of words, but when you forget them, it's not like we've been trained into thinking forgetting is, because we're used to learning things, putting them into our short-term memory, opposed to our long-term memory, which is like the subconscious mind, which is proper learning, learning a skill like properly, like driving or whatever. That's in your long-term memory. That's in your subconscious mind. School trains us into believing, okay, we got to chuck stuff in our short-term memory, spit it out onto a page, and that makes us smart. We don't learn any skills, no practical skills at school. I know you're probably aware of this, and it's the same everywhere. And of course, there's an agenda to it. But yeah, languages, being aware of your emotions, just because you've got to make so many mistakes. When you can get into a flow state, I honestly, hand on heart, when I go into my Malay lessons, because I'm learning Malay, which is the language from Malaysia at the moment, I have the attitude of, right, Pat, you're paying for this. Make as many mistakes as you can. Now, obviously, I don't go in there and deliberately try and like mess up or whatnot. You will never do that. You'll always like strive to speak well and communicate. But I have that attitude of, okay, I want him to at least correct me or give me new words that I don't know, fill in the gaps that I've got in my vocabulary. And for you to be in that state, you need to be very like comfortable with being wrong. Comfortable being wrong. And this links back into the spiritual stuff as well, which will help you develop this side of your like experience. Comfortable with not knowing. You've got to be very comfortable with, I don't know, yeah, and accepting, being in a very accepting state. Like with Spanish, for example, you don't say I am hungry in Spanish. A lot of people hear that like, yeah, of course you do. You say tengo hambre. That's how you say I am hungry. But it doesn't mean that. It means I have hunger. Tengo, I have, hambre, hunger. I have hunger. Now, a lot of adults have an issue with this because they're like, it doesn't make sense. Tengo hambre, I have hunger. That doesn't make sense. You've got to say I am hungry. The quicker you can just accept it and be like, oh, okay, I'm entering a new dimension of living, of viewing the world, of being. You got to be very open to just accepting, okay, cool. The quicker you can do that, which combines in with the being wrong, not knowing, making mistakes, etc. The faster you will learn a language. You combine that with the listening skills, you're living life on easy mode, man. You just need the right amount of dedication, and if you want to learn it, you will. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you made a lot of good points here. Okay, especially relating to the flow state. As someone who actually gets paid for his athletic ability, I can confirm that when you are in a flow type environment and you just let go, you can do things you never thought possible. And it's very similar to when people are speaking a foreign language when they're drunk, when they don't have these inhibitions, and all of a sudden they can speak way better than when they were sober. But I find it fascinating how, like recently with some Brazilians, this person, they spoke English, but they were scared to be embarrassed. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I know you're Brazilian. I know you don't grow up with English. Like the fact that you even try or know something is more impressive to me than you being shy that you can't speak perfect English, right? And the person that is in my shoes, like I'm not embarrassed to try to speak another language. I already told you the reasons why I haven't really gotten into it, but a lot of people are. They're afraid to be looked stupid at, but it's like, dude, why? This is not your home language. Like, get the fuck over it, right? So I really like your flow point though, because that is huge in every freaking thing. Like, we stop ourselves. It's so cliche. It's 110% cliche that we limit ourselves from getting in that flow mindset of just like our subconscious probably knows and is a sponge of all this different shit, and we need to trust our gut and go with the flow, and usually it works out good. Our conscious mind holds us back from everything.
Yep, for sure. And what you call your conscious mind, I call your ego. I'd say it's the thing that holds you back. So those it's a collection of negative self-limiting beliefs. The ego, it wants to stay small, it wants to stay safe, and if it's been trained at school, like I wrote in that tweet, I think I said the school makes us go through like humiliation rituals or something like that, like standing up in front of 30 of your classmates and being super vulnerable. But you've got to learn in the right environment, and you've got to be comfortable. School doesn't have that, doesn't provide that environment for us. And then,
here's what I think school is. Here's what I think school is. I think obviously the whole 9 to 5 cog in the machine, create the slave type mindset is what it's supposed to do. But that is majority of people. It's your job to break out of the popular term now, the matrix. That is like, you're supposed to be the one that gets out on your own. Everyone else needs to be put into the cog machine, because that's how society freaking functions. And if you want to escape, because deep down in your gut you want to, then it's on you. But that's why I don't bash the school system. And obviously it could be better even for creating a functioning society where you have the people doing the cleaning the toilets and the office working jobs. But there's a lot of good to it too. And it's on you personally, not anyone else, to get the fuck out of the machine and live your great, beautiful life. Simple,
Yeah.
How about that for the rant?
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think learning a language or doing any kind of personal development, but especially learning a language, because you're so out of your comfort zone and you will literally transform into a different person. Like, you're going to be very different from the time you start a course, if you learn properly, obviously. And by the time you finish, you're going to be a completely different entity. Your beliefs,
and that makes you, that makes you completely look at everything else in your life differently. You're like, holy shit, this thing, now what else can I do differently that's going to change all my perceptions and my ideas and my thoughts?
Yes, sir. That's the way. When you do something as big as that, something you've been trained to believe in, like, I'm not a language person or whatever, and then you're there like 3 years later chatting in that language, in a foreign language, fluently, you can't ignore maybe other negative beliefs that I have, maybe they're not true, maybe they're, what my mind tells me isn't 100% truth. And actually, if you want to dive into the etymology very, very briefly on this, mind in Spanish is mente. Mente is mentir. Mentir is to lie in Spanish, and in Italian, mentire and mentir in French. So in the Romance languages, mente, mind, and lie have got a very close link. So you've got a kind of well, I do anyway. Maybe it's because I've got a little bit of a schizophrenic mind. But for me, that was like, wow, yeah, the mind lies, man. That's all it does. It just puts an overlay of what it thinks to be true on reality. And you live your life in accordance with that. And if you live your life in accordance with that, if you're a slave to your mind, because that's basically what the Matrix is, in my opinion. Like the first thing you got to break free from is those negative beliefs, right? I'm sure you experienced this, like living the lifestyle you've decided to live. That was the first thing, right? The actual belief of, no, I can do this. I can do this. I can break free. If you don't break free from that, from your own thoughts, from the mind, the liar, the mentiroso, the mind, the mente. You're gonna find it hard to break free in any other ways and live your life how you want to live it. That's how I perceive the Matrix. Anyway, it's a mind matrix. I think.
100%. I think when you got into the etymology or what words mean and where the roots are, I've read some stuff about that on different topics, and I think it's fascinating. So maybe we'll get more into that. But luckily for me, I was blessed with a father who kind of uninstalled never allowed that programming to be installed into me as a kid. So they say as a child, we're as free as a bird, right? You can make believe anything in the world, and the child brain is super magical. Then it gets beat the fuck out of by school and peers and ego and all that kind of stuff, right? Luckily, my father installed in me to not let that happen. And like Kanye West talks about all the time, people can have their opinions on him which way or the other, but his mother was very similar. That made him believe that he could do anything and be anyone and so forth. And he's obviously manifested that in the real world and done shit that, for one, he was the producer guy he was a nerdy dork in Southside Chicago, and he became respected by the gang members. Then he was the producer. They said he'd never be a rapper. He became one of the biggest rappers in the world. And they say, you're the worst fashion person. Like, you'll never be respected in the circles. He became obviously huge with Yeezy and his clothing brand, and obviously got into a bunch of other stuff as well. But I think that is a great example of literal pure conviction and believing in oneself that you can manifest anything you want in this world. I'm a big believer, and I think therefore I am. I think we're living in what is it called? Not simulation, some sort of it, where we can kind of hack into the whole programming and so forth. And I don't want to get too hippie, but I think I like how it relates to learning a new language and how that woke you up. And I think there's other things people can do similarly that will have the same sort of effect.
Yeah. Well, listen, maybe for another podcast we can get a bit deep if you want and talk about that, the simulation and stuff. I'm big into that, man. I'm a self-labeled philosopher. I absolutely love anything expansive, anything like outside the norm of what we're told. I absolutely adore that. I'd say it's on par with my love for languages, to be honest. And maybe it's the same thing. Honestly, like you said, when you learn a language, you kind of you question your reality. Or not everyone. I think some people just they learn a language and they're like, great, I speak another language and it's still me. And they don't change. They don't have a profound spiritual experience. It's not for everyone, but even on just a human level, you can really improve your life. As I said before about emotional intelligence, you'll improve your relationships with the people around you, business, everything changes massively once you become aware of what's going on internally for yourself. And then if you can put communication skills and listening and empathizing as well with people, it improves your life hugely. But I would love, I'd love to dive deep with you one time about the simulation stuff for sure.
Hold on, time out. So are you qualified therapist type person or what?
Yeah. I'm a qualified therapist. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's bring out. I think we've dove into enough of why they should hire you to learn a new language, and you gave some good practical advice. But I'm curious because you seem different than. Can you hear that in the background? That
No,
sound
that's
or
all right.
no?
No, it's good.
I'm really curious about your mental state and the therapy and whatnot because, like I said, you're not like a normal British person. You know, British people are usually very dark humor, which is fine every once in a while, but I don't necessarily like being around. See, I like Slavic people, even though they are cold on the outside, they are very warm on the inside, and I respect their realness. But like the British people, to me, obviously I meet a lot of them traveling, so maybe that's kind of different. Or my time in Tenerife was like, Jesus, get me the fuck out of here. But their dark humor and their attitude I don't like at all, and maybe it's a ancestral thing, you know, the America and the United Kingdom and separation and fuck you guys, like we're the top dog. But talk to me more about this therapy thing. And first of all, how old are you? When did you start this language thing, and how long you been a therapist for?
Okay, so I started my therapy training in 2018. So I've been qualified for a couple of years. I'm 29 now, and I've been teaching languages for over 10 years. I was in Senegal teaching English, and then travel in France. I didn't do any teaching there, not officially. And then living in Spain, you know, and that's when I kind of started to build my career as a teacher and realized, oh, I love this.
Dande,
Yeah. So yeah, what was your question about
Dande, where? Dande, Spain.
donde en España? I was in Madrid for 3 years, and Alicante. Well, Elche is called actually, but like near Alicante in the south for 1 year. I
Yeah,
was
I
there.
like Madrid's not bad. I was there in the summer like 4 or 5 years ago, and it was too fucking hot, right? But
In
Madrid, I
summer.
like that. I like that El Retiro Park, or the little park where their little boats are on.
Retiro, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty. And then Alicante is nice, dude. I enjoyed a lot of Polish people there. I like that big castle on the top. Do you know what's underrated though? Is my favorite underrated beach city is Cartagena, right? Cartagena
Oh yeah.
in Brazil. Yeah, that's actually probably my. It was very chill, safe, clean. Beaches were nice. Yeah, I like that. I saw most of the coast of Spain from Barcelona down, and then I've been to Mallorca a lot and Tenerife, but Brazil is better, bro. You've been to Brazil, right?
I've not been. I've
Oh
not
yeah, you
been.
gotta go to Brazil. Yeah,
I
it's time to
Man, I
go.
love Brazilians. Like I work with a few Brazilians. That's when I started learning Portuguese. I decided I want to learn Portuguese. It's a stone's throw away from Spanish, and you know I spoke French and Italian as well. So I was like, wow, it's going to be easy to learn, and it has been relatively easy. Um, but I decided to learn it because the Brazilians are just so cool. They're so open. They're so warm. Like you're talking about English people, Brazilians are the opposite, man. You're in like the opposite country. They're so open, warm, friendly, like smiling all the time. On English people, because you said about like the dark humor, I've got very very dark humor. I don't think it's that upsets people though. It's the pessimism that's very different from the United States, and it's something I've been starting to work with a few Americans, and I'm like, whoa, it's a different world. You guys are like optimistic, that like can do attitude. We really like quash that here in the UK. It's seen as like arrogant, and I'm really not a fan of that. The dark humor's a different thing for me. Like is great. I think we've got the best comedians in the world. There are some good ones in the States as well, very good ones. But I think in the UK, we've got very, very good comedians. The humor's amazing. That's one thing I want to share with the world. You know, it's another reason I want to get like English people, such as myself, speaking foreign languages, so they can share that. They can share that English humor with the different cultures and move away from those stereotypes, man, of being like, yeah, a bit pessimistic. Apart from when they're in reserved, apart from when they get drunk, when we all let it out and you know, we've such a bad reputation, especially in Spain. I'm thinking of like is a horrible. It's a horrible look for my people, and I don't appreciate it. And I think if we could just learn languages, just learn a bit of Spanish, it just would make the world a difference. So yeah, that's a bit of a mission.
I think you're right. I don't know if it is the dark humor. It might be what you're saying, the pessimisticness. And I know the
Yeah.
American delusionalism, like the optimistic delusion, is quite rare for the rest of the world. That we believe we can do anything, put the man on the moon, get rich, blah blah blah. It's changing. A lot of the younger generations don't have that anymore, which is quite sad. But I'm all for it. I'm a big believer in the American bubble. I think it's one of the most unique, rare, special things that I know throughout history, for good and for bad. Okay, like I said, this delusionalism, because you got to remember who came to America. Okay, they were the rejects of Europe. They didn't want to live underneath no king. They were weirdo religious freaks. They were convicts. They were criminals. They wanted to go into the wilderness with the Native Americans and fucking kill deer, and I don't know. They were crazy people, right? And they said, look, we're gonna put our blinders on, not care about colonial or Europe and the kings, the queens, anywhere else. Fuck these Native Americans. Like, we're gonna just build and create and see what happens. And then within 250 years, they became the most powerful country on earth, right? And they put the man on the moon. Culturally dominated, had a lot of money, mainly because they were delusional. Okay, that doesn't just happen, right? But on the flip end, that delusion comes with a lot of problems, like obesity right now, like I would say, lack of, not dumb, we're smart in certain ways, but compared to like a European, when it comes to like the arts, to history, geography, to philosophy, we're fucking retarded, right? We have this culture of extreme work. There's a lot of negativities, right? That come with pure delusion and living in your own bubble. But I still think it's magical. And if you could take the best aspects of that bubble and incorporate, maybe a Euro lifestyle, the energy of the Brazilian, like, you can have the best of both worlds, right? So, like, another negative is like why we have the mass shootings, okay? And you talk about the gun and what the gun represents of self-reliance and there's just so many interesting things about America. I think it's a land of extremes, right? Like, you can't become the greatest thing ever and not have some of the worst things ever, right? That's like Isaac Newton type laws of gravity. I don't know, right? But to go back to my original thing about therapy, I want to talk more about therapy because you are a British Jew that is unique in my eyes. So give me some main practical ideas about this therapeutic stuff that kind of maybe relates to languages or whatnot.
Okay, relating it to languages. One of the techniques I use with my guys to help them get over, or better said, integrate those like negative beliefs, is be present with the energy in your body. So, for example, we'll use languages as an example. When you're speaking, you feel that you make a mistake, right? Everyone knows that feeling, that like pang. You might get like a pang in your stomach. And then the thoughts come of, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, why am I doing this anyway? Oh, how can I forget that word? I've just learned it 5 minutes ago. All of these thoughts. Your thoughts are actually a defense mechanism, and they're keeping you safe. They also lead to you suffering greatly, which is why people go to therapy, right? But in the moment, they're keeping you safe. Safe from what? Safe from feeling that energy directly and being with it directly. Because when you're a kid, you're in a situation that was traumatic and you couldn't hold that amount of energy. It was too great for you to hold in. It was unsafe. You had to jump into your mind, make up a story about what's going on. So bringing the two together then, I help people be present with that energy in their bodies. And obviously, as I'm teaching them a language at the same time, I don't dive super deep into like the reasons why. I don't do like psychotherapy as I teach languages, but that like you could call it mindfulness, that like presence, that awareness of energy is something that I definitely recommend if you're like suffering, if you've got a lot of anxiety and everything. Obviously, if you're struggling a lot, find a therapist, find someone to talk things through and they can hold space with you. But what you can also do is write down the thoughts that you're having. And as you're writing the thoughts down, let them just come out. If you're very angry or whatever, let's say you're angry, write down, I'm so angry at that person. Write down the thoughts, the mind's projections. And as you're doing that, be present with the actual emotion and like be aware of it in your body. Think, okay, so this anger energy is in my heart, and I'm feeling this, and it's like when it's uncomfortable. That's when like meditation and mindfulness could be the next step, where you just start to breathe into it and just start to accept that energy. It's hard to get into talking about it like this on an interview, because obviously normally I'd work one-to-one with a person and use whatever they're bringing, but being aware of the energy manifest in the body, that is the way. Do you know Eckhart Tolle? Eckhart Tolle, like The Power of Now? Yeah, you've heard of him? Yeah, super famous guy. He talks about the energy body, right? And the pain body. So the energy body, he says, feel the inner energy. Yeah, feel the inner energy that's in your body. Be present with it. The reason most people struggle and they don't have any connection or awareness of of presence is because of these traumas that they've got all in their body. Yeah, this traumatized energy that's far too uncomfortable to be with. But once you start being with that energy, once you start just, okay, right, so I've got this anger, right, and it's in my heart. Okay, well, let me just be okay with it. It's uncomfortable for sure, which is why most people don't go to therapy. They'd rather just drink or, smoke or do whatever. But you be with that energy and you become at peace with it being there. And that's where the magic happens. That's where you integrate it. You'll have a revelation, a realization about the story that you were saying. You'll forgive people. You'll let go of things from the past. And you may still be triggered in the future. But when you get triggered, you have this inner awareness, right? So you won't jump straight into the mind's projections and suffer. You'll be there. You'll feel the uncomfortableness for a second, and then it'll pass. Yeah, and you get on with your day. You do this. This is like a cleansing of the energy body. I didn't want to get too deep, but I'm kind of getting into it now. But yeah essentially that's the combination.
Yeah, two things. I like, breathing in positivity and comfort and warmth, and then breathing out negativity and whatnot. And you can focus on the spot you're feeling the yuck from, like you said, the heart. That usually refreshes me pretty good. I like the writing down thing, especially when I'm about to write a mean text or say something stupid to someone. Like, I think it's very important to, write it out and wait like 24 hours and see how you feel. Because normally after you just write that shit out and you're like, okay, you go to sleep, you're like, okay, this is extreme. I'm acting way out of emotion, and I want to do more of it with like writing in the journal. Like, I do affirmations every morning, like right when I get into that half awake, half asleep thing. So I think it penetrates the subconscious a lot more. I do all my I am stuff. I've been doing that shit for, probably 7-8 years now. And the stuff that's came true, it would blow your mind, right? It's amazing. I need to do it every day now. Like, after I do it, my head is in a perfect headspace. It's the craziest thing. If I don't do it, I feel like I'm off. I feel like I'm, being goofy. So yeah, I definitely think what you just said is some good stuff. I love meditation's been a part of me since I was 17, so that's been 11 years. I'm 28. I don't look 28, do I? I look young.
Yeah, we both look young, man. We both look mid-20s.
Okay.
Or younger.
Yeah, this is all the positivity. It makes you stay young. It's crazy.
And the sun.
But
if you've been in Brazil, yeah, massive, yeah.
100%. So, okay, that's good. That good therapy stuff. Ask me some questions. You said you wanted to ask me something, then we can kind of wrap it up. But I like the conversation. I like you. Actually, my first thing, how much are you charging? What's your business model here?
My business model, it depends, man. It depends on the needs of the client. Depends on the course. I'm charging very affordable rates for what I provide. Why? Because I love it. Basically, for me, it's like a vocation. I'm honored anytime anyone steps into like my classroom. my virtual classroom because I do the lessons on Skype, right? Uh, it's great. It's amazing. It's really like beautiful. I feel like I'm doing my dharma. Do you know?
Cut the
Kind of-
bullshit. Tell me how much you charge.
Man, I can't say honestly. I can't say honestly. It depends. It depends. We can if you're interested in learning
Give me an
Spanish, are you,
average.
or
Give me an average. No, give me an average. Stop playing around.
an average, like in dollars, between $500 and $2,000, about that.
For what do you get?
Man, it depends on the course, man. Like I do courses
If I
from
give you if I give you 500, if I give you $500 right now, what do I
yeah.
get?
You get a
I
month's
want to
course.
learn Portuguese. Or no, you don't know Portuguese, so Spanish. I want to
Yeah,
learn Spanish.
I know Portuguese. I speak Portuguese. Yeah,
$500.
I
What
speak
do I
Portuguese.
get?
$500. You get a month's course for that. A month's course, you get 8 sessions. They're between 30 minutes to 45 minutes each, which I found to be like the optimal level. And I'll teach you how to learn a language properly, and you'll get like the basics. Depending on where your Portuguese is at, you'll level up your Portuguese. If it's like very basic, you'll kind of get like a solid foundation from that, and the ability, like I said before, to then suck that knowledge out of the natives, becoming your own teacher, basically. That's what I strive to get my
So
students
twice
to.
a
A
week,
lot of people
twice a
stay on
week.
because I like learning with me, but
So twice a week for an hour and a half, I'm paying $500, and I'm going to be. See, my brain is skewed for value for money because I've been living in Brazil the last 8 months, right? I mean, I
yeah,
can
yeah,
hire a guy to go build a building for $300 a month. You know what I mean? But it works for in a month. People are happy with $500 for those results. I'm just wondering.
yeah. But that's what people have been paying me, man. But it depends. You'd have to do a session if you're serious about and interested in it. Yeah, feel free to
I'm just asking you big
have a
picture
chat.
for especially the people listening, you know, see if you're a
Mm.
goofball or you're really about it. But I think it's actually smarter to charge more because if I'm paying more money, you know, then I'm going to be hyper focused because I don't want to lose my
Yeah,
investment, right? I think
exactly.
that's a yeah.
Exactly. I
Uh,
would don't listen to what I'm saying. Like go on my website, look at laybacklanguages.com, just read the reviews that people are writing. I'm in the process of getting like video case studies and stuff as well. So yeah, don't take my word for it. And always like I do like a couple of consultations. I do like an initial consultation to check like, okay, you want to learn the language. Then I'll do another one where we do like a taster session, and I'll say the courses that are available. But I don't take people on unless they're serious about it because they get serious results, you know. And it's not for everyone. People might think, yeah, I want to do that, but I say to them, look, you got to give me at least 3 good reasons you want to learn. For you, for example, I'd ask you, give me 3 good reasons you want to learn Portuguese, you know, because I I like people actually following through with
Bunda,
it after,
Bunda,
you
and Bunda. Those are my three
know.
reasons. Bunda, Bunda, Bunda. Just kidding.
I mean, listen, if that's what motivates you, then that's great. But yeah, course wise,
That's
that's
smart
what I'm
though. The
offering
people,
at the moment. Mm.
that's smart though. People need to be, they want to do it, right? Otherwise, it'll be half-assed. And if you
Yeah,
really want to do something, you could freaking learn that
yeah,
language pretty quick.
yeah, yeah. I don't work with people unless they're like properly, motivated to, for sure.
Okay, so hey, let's wrap this thing up. You can ask me some
Yeah.
questions. You're a therapist. We can talk about travel. Let's shoot the shit for about 20 minutes, and otherwise,
I've
it's been a good call.
I've got to shoot, man. I've got my dinner in the oven. I'm really sorry. I've got
You got
my
a
dinner.
dinner?
Yeah. I'm cooking. I'm cooking at the moment. I'm smelling it, and I'm like, I don't know if that's burning. You know, it's in the oven.
No worries. No, wrap it up. We had 1 hour. It was really good. So laidbacklanguages.com.
Yeah. Laidbacklanguages.com. I'm on Twitter as well at layback or X, whatever it's called now. At laybacklang, you'll find me. Layback languages. Instagram, I'm on that with the same handle at laybacklang. And yeah, that's pretty much me, man.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you coming on. Let's definitely stay in touch, and hopefully we can send someone that listens that wants to travel to learn a new language.
Yeah, man. Listen, if they're serious about it, they want to really change and speak it fluently, then I'm their guy. Like, thank you for having me on, man. It's been good fun chatting.
All right, buddy. Take care. Enjoy your meal. Ciao, ciao.